The lobby smelled faintly of lemon polish and old coffee, the kind of scent that didn't belong anywhere specific, yet clung to cheap hotel carpets like memory. Elias stood by the check-in desk, suitcase in one hand, Daniel's silence in the other. His boyfriend scrolled through his phone beside him, tapping idly, offering no words, no glance, not even a nod when their room key was handed over. Room 509. Ocean view, allegedly. But Elias knew better. It wasn't about the ocean, not really. It was about trying, once again, to resuscitate a relationship already in rigor. 5 years. They had passed not like fireworks, but like slow tides, retreating quietly, stealing small pieces each day. Their room was beige and efficient, a king bed that already felt like separate islands, a window dressed in tired curtains, and Daniel's voice, still disinterested, saying, "I'll be working for a while. Client meetings tomorrow." No kiss, no question about dinner. Just the glow of the laptop screen filling the room like a third presence Elias hadn't invited. He didn't argue. What would be the point? He nodded, changed into something plain, and said he'd explore the hotel. Daniel mumbled something that might have been okay or but Elias had already closed the door. Downstairs, the lounge buzzed faintly with background music, jazz maybe. Elias found a seat near the far corner where the light was softer and the silence thicker. A couple laughed somewhere behind him, a bartender clinked glasses. It all sounded like a different life. That's when he noticed the boy. Skinny, almost too much so, curled into the armchair by the vending machine. Hoodie sleeves pushed to the elbows, fingers smudged with graphite, sketching something onto a napkin. His legs were drawn up under him, posture more protection than comfort. A bottle of orange soda sat untouched on the table. No phone, no noise, just him and the scribble of pencil on tissue paper. Elias didn't mean to stare, but there was something magnetic about the boy's stillness, like watching someone try not to vanish. When the boy's eyes lifted, gray maybe or something, close, they didn't widen or shy away. He just looked, a glance held longer than it should have been, then back to the napkin. "Do they let you steal those?" Elias asked before he could stop himself. The boy smiled, just enough to show he heard. "They're free, sort of." Elias sat across from him, ignoring how empty the chair had been moments ago. "What are you drawing?" "People." The boy turned the napkin slightly, revealing figures, vague, elongated, faceless, a crowd of shadows. But no one specific, just how it feels to be around them. Elias leaned in. "Lonely?" "Loud," the boy replied. "But yeah, that, too." There was a pause, not awkward, just open, like an unfinished thought waiting to be claimed. "I'm Elias," he offered. The boy nodded, but didn't say his name right away. He glanced toward the entrance, then back down to his napkin. "I'm just staying. Here for a few days. Needed a place that didn't smell like shouting." Elias understood more than he wanted to admit. "Me too," he said. "Except mine smells like silence." The boy looked up at that. Really looked. His head tilted slightly, as if measuring whether Elias meant it. Then he said softly, "You're not here alone, are you?" "No." "Thought so." Elias wanted to ask how he knew, but he already did. It was the way his shoulders carried, something invisible, the way his eyes had been looking for someone else before they landed here. "You talk to a lot of strangers?" Elias asked, trying to keep it light. "Only the ones who look like they need it more than me." Elias smiled, though it felt like it cracked something. "You're not wrong." The boy tucked the napkin into his hoodie pocket. He stood slowly, lanky limbs unfolding, but he paused before leaving. "Thank you," he said. Not with drama, not with weight, just truth. "For seeing me." Elias nodded, unsure of what to say back. The boy walked past him, disappeared into the elevator with nothing but a shoelace untied and a ghost of graphite on his fingertips. His seat was empty again. The orange soda remained. Elias sat there for a while, longer than he needed to. Then his phone buzzed. "Where are you?" From Daniel. He didn't answer right away. He looked toward the elevator one more time, then stood, sliding his hands into his pockets like someone trying to hold on to something that had already passed. Upstairs, room 509 waited. So did Daniel. So did silence. The pool at night didn't shimmer, it sulked. Chlorinated and underlit, it reflected more shadow than light, more silence than sound. Elias leaned against the railing, watching the ripples form around a pair of bare ankles dipping lazily in the water. The boy, River, he'd finally said his name when they bumped into each other earlier in the hallway, was sitting at the edge, hoodie sleeves rolled to his elbows, face tilted toward the moon but unreadable in the dimness. Elias approached slowly, careful not to disrupt the quiet. River didn't look up, just said, "You found the good spot." "I wasn't looking for it," Elias replied, easing down beside him. "That's how people usually find things worth keeping," River murmured. For a few moments there was only the sound of night, distant crickets, a mechanical hum from a pool filter, and the soft lapping of water against tile. Elias let the silence settle before breaking it. "Daniel's at dinner," he said, "with clients. He didn't ask me to come." River nodded, eyes still on the pool. "He doesn't look at you." The words landed softly but cut deep. Elias didn't reply at first. He just breathed, slowly, like exhaling truth. "How would you know?" River shrugged. "You looked back at me more than he's looked at you." Elias gave a short laugh. It sounded tired, like it had taken weeks to crawl out of him. "You noticed too much." River turned his head, finally meeting Elias's gaze. Not face, not features, just the shape of presence, two people not hiding anymore. "You're starving for something," River said gently. "And I don't mean food." Elias looked down at his hands. "What does it feel like for you?" "To be wanted? To be seen?" River hesitated. "Like someone turned on a light in a room I didn't know I was locked in." Elias didn't speak. The image lingered. Somewhere behind them, a car passed on the nearby street, headlights throwing thin beams across the concrete. "I'm sorry," River said. "If this is too much, I don't get many chances to talk to someone who's listening." Elias looked over. "I am." Their knees touched, barely, gently. Elias didn't move. The contact was small but alive, like static on skin. "My parents are splitting up," River said quietly. "I came here because I couldn't take the walls in that house anymore, the yelling, the pretending, everyone pretending it's okay." "I came here to remember something I think I've forgotten," Elias said. "What it feels like to matter." They sat there, both staring ahead, both caught in that fine line between confession and collapse. "Have you ever," River asked, "been touched by someone who made you feel like a real person again? Like not just touched your skin, but held something deeper?" Elias's throat felt tight. He wanted to say Daniel used to, but couldn't lie. Not anymore. "No," he answered. "Not for a long time." River turned slightly, his hand brushing against Elias's. Not grabbing. Not demanding. Just asking. "I don't want anything from you," River whispered. "But if you needed someone tonight, to remind you, you're not invisible. I could be that." The moonlight hit his wrist, pale against the blue veins, under the skin. Elias touched it gently, not as a claim, but as an answer. They didn't speak after that. There were no promises, no declarations, just a quiet rising, a shared walk through dim hallways, the soft pad of bare feet on carpet. Outside River's room, the air was thick with tension, not lust, not fear, just possibility. "You don't have to come in," River said. Elias looked at him, not at his face, but his shape, his gravity. I want to, if you want me to. River. Opened the door. Elias stepped in. The door closed behind them. The room, like the moment, held no spectacle. No names were called. No vows broken out loud. Only the sound of two people remembering what warmth felt like. In the morning, Elias woke to sunlight slicing through the blinds. The bed beside him was empty. On the pillow, a napkin, creased and smudged, scrawled in graphite. You made me feel seen. That's enough. He held it in his hand for a long time, then folded it carefully and slid it into his pocket. Downstairs, room 509 still waited. So did Daniel. And the silence. The breakfast buffet was a quiet parade of silver trays and empty conversation. Elias sat across from Daniel, stirring his coffee more than drinking it. Daniel, as always, was consumed by his phone, scrolling with a mechanical thumb, eyes dim and unreadable. A plate of eggs congealed between them, untouched. You didn't come back last night, Daniel said, voice flat without looking up. I needed air, Elias replied. Daniel nodded, as if the response were both sufficient and irrelevant. He took a sip of orange juice, then returned to a notification, smirking faintly at something Elias would never be shown. The silence between them wasn't new. It was architectural, built layer by layer, day after day, into a kind of invisible wall that neither had the energy to knock down. But today, Elias noticed it more. Not because it was louder, but because he had something to compare it to. He glanced to the far corner of the dining room. The armchair by the window, the same one River had sketched in, was empty. The orange soda bottle was gone. So was the boy. I met someone, Elias said suddenly. Daniel blinked, then looked up. Excuse me? Here. In the hotel, just a kid. We talked. Daniel set his phone down slowly. Talked? Elias didn't answer immediately. He let the word hang, open-ended. He reminded me what it felt like to be noticed, listened to. Daniel's jaw tightened, not in anger, more like discomfort, like a mirror held too close. So what are you saying? You made a friend? Elias met his eyes. I made a choice. Daniel didn't respond. The air between them grew denser, sharp around the edges. You've been gone for a long time, Elias continued. Long before I ever stepped out of that room. I've been busy, Elias. You knew that when... No, Elias said, calm but firm. I knew you had work. I didn't know I'd become your background noise. Daniel looked away. His hand returned to the phone but didn't touch it. Elias reached into his pocket and took out the napkin. The sketch was faded now, the graphite smudged from the way he'd held it through the night. He left this, Elias said. Not a number, not an invitation, just a thank you. Daniel didn't ask what it said. Maybe he didn't want to know. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Elias said. I'm asking if you even noticed I was slipping away. A long pause. Then, do you love him? Elias shook his head. It wasn't about love. It was about being seen. They sat in silence again, but it was no longer the quiet of familiarity. It was the stillness of something broken. After breakfast, they returned to the room and packed without speaking. The hotel corridors felt colder now, lit too brightly for a morning that had lost all its color. At the checkout desk, Elias lingered. Did the boy in room 411 check out already? He asked the receptionist. The clerk nodded. Yes, sir, early this morning, left just after dawn. Elias thanked her and turned away. His hand brushed his coat pocket, the napkin still there, folded like a fragile memory. Daniel was already walking ahead, suitcase wheels humming across the tile. Elias trailed behind, his steps slower, his thoughts louder. Outside, the wind was cool, the sky washed pale with cloud. They stood by the curb waiting for the car to arrive. Daniel finally spoke. "So what now?" Elias looked at him, truly looked. "I don't know, but I don't want to go back to how things were." "You think one night with some stranger changes everything?" Elias exhaled. "No, I think everything changed long before that. Last night just made me brave enough to admit it." The car pulled up. Daniel got in first. Elias hesitated, staring back at the hotel one more time. He thought of River, not as a person he loved, but as a moment he'd needed. A flash of truth wrapped in a stranger's skin. He got in the car and closed the door. The napkin stayed in his pocket. Not as a token of betrayal, but as a reminder of the night someone chose to see him when the person who was supposed to didn't. Sometimes Elias realized the smallest moments change the loudest silences.